Well, let me bring in Rod McKenzie from the Road Haulage Association. Rod, thank you for joining us this evening. What do you make of this? Is it as common as Miles is suggesting, that your drivers are approached in this way?
Yes, it's sort of cyclical activity in the sense that it coincides with periods of time when large numbers of migrants build up around Calais and the other channel ports or in the approach roads, and they become organised by these criminal gangs. And that typically happens in good weather rather than bad weather. But it depends as well on, what war zone or what personal disaster they are fleeing from and what's in the news at the time. But it's a worry.
And is it something that you feel able to be in control of? Do you need assistance? How do you even start to tackle this?
Well, I think everyone can do their bit to help. Clearly, if you see this sort of thing going on, you should report it to the relevant authorities. And I know that road hauliers wouldn't hesitate to do this. But there is another model of operation that is used by these criminal gangs who are exploiting these migrants. And that is, the threat of force to lorry drivers, individual lorry drivers. What I'm talking about, in very simple terms, is, a roadblock on a road in northern France. The lorry has to stop for the roadblock. The driver is then approached by a group of men with baseball bats who threaten to beat his brains out if he doesn't allow some migrants to go in the back. That's a very difficult circumstance I think we can all appreciate. Now, that driver needs to be given support. He needs to be given support by the local law enforcement authorities to stop this sort of thing happening. But you cannot take on a gang armed with baseball bats who are threatening your life. And that is a very difficult dilemma.
That sounds like a horrendous situation. Miles, are those kind of tactics things that you're aware of?
Yes, I know we've seen that in the past, and over the recent months, it's been really important for us to work with our French colleagues in order to take control of the territory around the Channel ports. So we work really closely with our French colleagues in the National Police and the security forces in order to ensure that drivers have got the necessary security and protection in place in the places where they stop, in the places where they stay overnight, and in places, just having that free carriage on the motorways and roads leading up to the Channel ports. So we're aware of that potential for that threat, and we work really closely with the French authorities in order to support them to make it safer for drivers.
And Rod, let me ask you, the Home Office is threatening fines for drivers for £2,000 per migrant if people are found in the back of their vehicles. But of course, I don't know if there's a sum of money put up at the start, if that's a temptation for people that are involved in these cases. Is this the right way to be thinking about it, or does it go beyond fines and money?
Well, we would support proper punishment for anyone who breaks the law. Obviously, we would. But I think sometimes the authorities need to take account of the coercion that I've just spoken to you about, in which case the driver might not be, if not entirely innocent, then certainly operating under very difficult circumstances. I think the other thing that we need to bear in mind is that most hauliers running the trip to the UK are European companies and European drivers. So actually, there's quite a difficult communication issue there, isn't there? If the drivers were trying to reach a Romanian, Bulgarian, and they are being approached by these sophisticated, organised criminal gangs and being offered riches beyond their wildest dreams in terms of driving a lorry, that is often quite a temptation. And I think the authorities need to try and address that as well. We could do our bits with communications, and I think that all our members would absolutely react with horror, as they did when the Essex case that you were talking about earlier emerged. It was a stain on an industry that is highly compliant and very, very law-abiding. So we need to stamp it out, but it is not as easy as just communicating with British lorry drivers. It's a wider, European-wide issue, this.
And Miles, I'll let you respond to that before we go. Is there a European strategy for what you're doing, and is what you're doing enough?
Absolutely, there's a European strategy. Some of the material is being offered in a range of different languages, and it's culturally sensitive and appropriate to appeal to those groups of different nationalities, different ethnicities, so we can get the right response and get the information that we need in order to stop this trade. I think it's really important to know that the defence of the UK border just doesn't start at Dover. We work on a whole route approach. We have liaison officers based in capital cities across Europe. We work really closely with our counterparts to attack and undermine organised crime groups wherever we can. So that's a really important part of our response to this threat to the UK.
And it is a Crime Stoppers campaign. So how do people report something if there is a haulier listening who thinks this might affect them?
So you can go online or you can dial 0800 555 111, and we're working with Crime Stoppers because they know how to handle information confidently, securely, and in confidence with the necessary protection in place. So 0800 555 111.
Thank you so much, both of you, for sparing the time to talk to us about this evening. That's Miles Bonfield, the NCA's Head of Organised Immigration Crime Operations, and Rod McKenzie, Managing Director of Policy and Public Affairs at the Road Haulage Association.